Are we living yet? Oh yeah, we are living.
We
How about
are
that?
we are live.
All right.
Hello, everyone. All right, who do we got here? We got Mike Kuipers, the mayor of APG. Stephen Hoover, the Wikipedia. It's right there. And let's see. That's it. Okay. Well, it's an exclusive club then. Stephen and Mike
Very
are
exclusive.
in. And yeah, so luckily this worked out, and Rick didn't get rerouted, and he's with us, and we're going to do a couple of news items and a couple of feedback items, and get caught up with Rick, and then we're going to end it. Don't worry, I don't mean we're going to kill ourselves, but we'll end the broadcast, end the show.
End it. Done.
Oh, Aaron Ort. Hey, Captain Jeff and Rick. Hey, Aaron Ort. All right, so now it's a threesome, so to speak. All right. Yeah, it's a level playing field. 3 broadcasters, 3 listeners, a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah. You'd call that a 1-to-1.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. So we're thinking we might just start the thing, if you all in the live audience don't mind. I know they're going, what? How is it they're already... Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Do that again, Liz. What? That's funny. Hey, Ben Rounds.
Hello, Ben.
Hey, have you been round?
You been round?
All right. Let's see. To the intro, and here. You ready, Liz? All right. And you're up in Cincinnati. Oh, I got to get my KRP thing. Oh, of course I am. Busted again. Now it's recording. Is
Get my recorder started here.
Yeah, Rick said he's got to get his started.
There we go.
And let's see.
Cincinnati, WKRP.
All right. Let me move that over here.
Cincinnati,
No.
WKRP.
That's what I wanted to do. What are you laughing at?
Tim says nothing like a couple of guys in hotel rooms.
Yeah, there is nothing like it. Thank goodness.
I like it. Yep.
Yeah, we're not in the same hotel, although we have been as well, but we don't want to talk
have.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go. Hey, I told you. I promised. It's Miami Rick joining us. He is in Cincinnati. He is world traveler, airplane mechanic, Breitling cognoscenti, fitness hound, and international air freight captain. And as I just said, it's Miami Rick. Hey, Rick.
Hey, everybody. Oh, happy to be here. Sorry I missed out yesterday. A little scheduling had other ideas, but here I am.
Very good, very good. So, what did you do?
Well, I had a little. They call it a repo flight. Not like we're repossessing an airplane. We're repositioning an airplane, and it's kind of cool because it was a short little flight from Riverside to Ontario, almost as long as my old flights on the 747, and a whole grand total of 12 minutes. Takeoff to touchdown. It was good. Nice 180 knots, flaps 5 the whole time, and you basically take off, and you are just about on a base turn to runway 26 in Ontario. So it was up and down right away. It was great.
Nice. Used to do something very similar, kind of basically repositioning from Lauderdale to Miami or vice versa, back in the old days.
Well, I've done that. I remember one time we were going into Miami, and very, very tight on the fuel because on the 777 we used to do it's basically max load out of Santiago to Miami, and obviously Miami the alternate is Fort Lauderdale. Just
Yep.
might as well give you the north runway in Miami because Fort Lauderdale is right there. And so couldn't land in Miami, made it to Fort Lauderdale, waited for the storm to pass, and Fort Lauderdale to Miami was just a couple of minutes, just right down the beach, which is a flat. I used to do quite a bit when I used to live down there on the Cessna 172s, up and down the beach. But it's a little different in a 777.
Yeah, you're moving a little bit faster.
Yeah, a little bit faster, but it's a good time nonetheless. Yeah.
Quick timeout. Is the volume better now? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to overmodulate. Thank you, Micah. But Rick's is sounding good,
I'm good.
I'm assuming. Okay. Good. I'm glad that somebody said something about it before we got too far along. Okay, good. Then I won't touch it. I'll leave it there. So it's interesting that you can have so many airports kind of all lined up in a row on the east coast of Florida and really not worry about all of them getting knocked out all at the same time. Although that did happen to me one time.
What happened?
I was out there holding, we were coming in from New York or Boston or whatever, going to, I think we were trying to get into Lauderdale. That was our scheduled. And thunderstorms were impacting the entire, from Melbourne all the way, or just south of Melbourne all the way down. Oh, and wow. We were out there holding over offshore, I forgot, like Freeport, and then I think they moved us down to Bimini, and then finally I was looking at the fuel, and the cushion was starting to get sucked up my you-know-what, and I thought, we're now min fuel, and so we kind of bugged out, and then said we're heading up to Melbourne. I think it was the first one that we could get into, and right as I think I actually declared emergency fuel at some point.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow.
Yeah, bad I was getting. And so we're heading up to the north, and I hear the controller ask a JetBlue, "Hey, looks like they might be able to take somebody into Lauderdale. You guys want to give that a try?" And I'm going, "Excuse me, hello, excuse me. I'd like to do that. Would it be okay if I did that?" So
the guy in Office Space with his red stapler. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I don't think I did.
I'm sure somebody's going to get the reference. It's hilarious. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have to watch it now. In fact, I think people have mentioned that movie several times, and they say that I have to watch it, and I never have. So I need to get on the stick, so to speak. Anyway, so yeah, they said, "Oh yeah, okay, go ahead," and we got right on in, and I think we landed with just a little bit less than we normally do, and so I basically during that whole thing I said, "Oh, we're no longer emergency fuel," so just to kind of call off that emergency right now.
Yeah, for us, it used to be coming in from South America. One ace that we had up our sleeve was Nassau over in the Bahamas, and the trick there was, like you said, a lot of times these airports in the East Coast, southeast tip of Florida, they all get sucked in because they're all right next to each other. You got Fort Lauderdale, Miami, you have West Palm Beach, Apalaka, and all those, and so. You would also analyze and take into account Nassau, and if you were 250 or above, it would still make sense to deviate to the east into Nassau instead of going west into all the other airports where everybody's trying to get in at the same time. If you got below 250, then fuel-wise, it didn't make sense. So you had to make up your mind below you got to 25. So.
We considered going in there, but the big consideration for me was that this was an intra-United States flight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, now you have to think about all the customs and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, and I think by that time we were holding at a point that it was closer for us to go to Melbourne than it was to go down to Nassau. Anyway, it was a big mess, but we worked it out finally. I'm still here, yay! So, not in the water somewhere. Okay, well, why don't we? You know what we're going to do? We're going to get caught up with you, or are we caught up now after you were telling us about
No,
your?
well, just just been. Oh well, what did I do? I left home last Thursday. Friday, I did a day quip trip down to Charlotte. I was there Saturday. I went up to Cincinnati. That was really cool because it was a short little flight. Only went up to 240, 24,000 feet. It flew the whole thing at 300 knots, which was
Oh,
nice.
neat.
Oh yeah, so got to Cincinnati. I was spent the day here. I think it was a little under 24 hours, and then over to Ontario. And I was supposed to sit reserve in Ontario this whole time, hotel reserve, not airport reserve. Which is interestingly when you sit airport reserve or hot reserve, they tend to not use you as much as when you sit hotel reserve. So R2 versus R3. So sitting R2 in Cincinnati in Ontario, immediately after I got in, yesterday I had that repo flight. Then today yesterday night, sorry, they slapped a whole line for the rest of the week. So tomorrow I'm going down to Tampa and over to San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'll be there for a day, and then I fly back to Cincinnati via Tampa the day and a half afterwards, and then I'm done for the week. So that's it's gonna be nice going down to Puerto Rico. Hanging out down there. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. It's been a while since I've been down there, so I'm looking forward to that.
Did they put you up at the Carib Hilton?
No, they put us at a Marriott. What is it called? It's right on the beach there. It's
nice.
some kind of Marriott casino, something or other. But it's a really nice, really nice property. Yeah, in the
I
old
used
part of town, so it's nice.
Used to go down to San Juan quite a bit when I was flying the L1011 domestic.
Ah,
So
what's it called? The
really cool place.
Marriott Stellaris Casino. So it's nice. Yeah,
Very nice. Very
Looking
nice.
forward to
Get some
that.
good get some good food down there.
yeah. No, well, I don't know about Cuban food, Puerto Rican food maybe, but
Puerto Rican food?
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
Be good. Yeah, be all right.
Yeah, it's good stuff actually. All right, and then you'll have some time off. That's good. And
Yeah, and then back at it, doing turns over to between Chicago and Stockton, and down to Dallas again, and then over to Ontario. And this is going to be, I think, my last bid period out of Ontario for a little while.
mhm.
So I'm going to start flying out of Cincinnati again for the wintertime. Now that the weather, the convective activity is kind of dying down a little bit, so change it up a little bit. So
Yeah,
looking forward to that too. Yeah.
like it.
Yep.
All right, well that's good. So we left a couple of the news items over for us to cover together, Rick. And the first one is Northern Pacific Airways announces the purchase of its first 6 Boeing 757-200s. And this week, Anchorage-based Northern Pacific Airways, a wholly owned subsidiary of Float Alaska, floats all in caps, so that must be an acronym for something, FLOAT, agreed to the purchase of its first 6 aircraft, Boeing 757-200s. The airline completed the transaction to meet part of its initial fleet requirements. The first aircraft within this purchase will be delivered immediately. The airline intends to offer service between points in the U.S. and Asia via Anchorage, Alaska. The acquisition of the Boeing 757's first step in Northern Pacific's business plan. Prior to entering service, the aircraft will undergo a full sea-level maintenance check by Certified Aviation Services, LLC, a leading maintenance, repair, and overhaul MRO firm in San Bernardino, California. The Alaska-based carrier intends to continue enlarging its fleet as it prepares for passenger flights. The best-in-class Boeing 757-200 is powered by twin 36-600 Rolls-Royce RB211 underwing turbo engines for a maximum takeoff weight of 255,000 pounds. The plane can transport over 200 passengers to their destination each flight, with a range of 3,915 nautical miles, which is about 7,250 kilometers, per fueling. The single-aisle plane is less costly to fly than its wide-bodied counterparts, yet has a range greater than other aircraft of similar size. Over the duration of their manufacturing program, more than 1,049 Boeing 757-200s were delivered so they probably made 1,050. The aircraft is well suited for point-to-point long-haul flights and has enough space to accommodate each passenger's carry-on. And according to Rob McKinney, Northern Pacific's chief executive officer, Northern Pacific is proud to introduce these powerful aircraft as the foundation of our fleet. Yeah. He didn't say that. The Boeing 757-200 will help us achieve operational savings and efficiencies while offering our customers a rewarding travel experience. So the reason why I threw this in here, Rick, is because I'd never heard of Northern Pacific Airways or Float Alaska, for that matter.
No.
But they picked a great jet. I'm just surprised that they're starting off with an airplane that a lot of airlines are starting to retire out of their fleets because they just look at it as too old. But as I'm sure you will agree, that 757 is an airliner that many airlines wish that Boeing had never stopped making, and it was just bad timing at the time. Their orders were dwindling, and Boeing basically said, "Okay, I guess nobody wants this airplane, so we'll stop making it." And I hear that they even basically destroyed all the jigs and all the stuff that they used to make, all the tooling and everything else. So when the airlines came back and said, "Excuse me, we'd like to have that airplane again," they go, "I'm sorry, we can't make any more of those things.
We destroyed the plans. We don't know how to make them anymore." Well, I tell you, I think it was 94 when the 75 stopped being produced, and it's a shame because I tell you, I mean that airplane is just something else. And it's they're getting a little long in the tooth, but the reason why a lot of cargo outfits still fly them around is because they are just so. I mean, the amount of payload that they can carry and the type of type of airfields and runways it can operate in and out of, it's just second to none. I remember back in South America. On the 75, it was an engine out in an airport like Quito or La Paz, Bolivia. It was just basically a non-event. It was just a thrust to weight ratio. That thing is just unbelievable. And that's just another interesting thing about it is that it's a common type rating with a 7.6. So if you fly one, you can fly the other. With a very simple differences course and a couple of sim rides and a check ride on. So. Just a fantastic airplane. And there's FedEx still flies a lot of 757s. In fact, I believe they have the largest fleet of 757s. UPS has 757s. Northern Air Cargo, I believe, operates 75s. So does
Acme
National
still flies a bunch of them.
Acme flies a lot of them. You're right. Although Acme's are not Rolls-Royce equipped. I believe those are Pratt
they're not
2000s.
They are the Pratt and Whitney version.
Yeah, the Pratt and Whitney 2000s. But the airplane.
But I mean, even that with that engine, the people that I know who fly the jet say that fully loaded, it goes right on up to 35, 37. I mean, it's not. A lot of it jets, if you're really, really heavy and you're full of fuel and passengers, you kind of have to do a step climb up to your final highest cruise altitude. And they said, nope, this thing goes right on up there, no problem.
And the cool thing about the 7.5, it's one of the really cool things about the 7.5 that the 7.6 doesn't have is that the 7.5 has a feature where if you get to a very, very low airspeed, and prior to the stall, before the airplane stalls, the leading edge slats will automatically deploy to keep you airborne. So it's just
Mad Dog had that.
Airplane. Oh, it did? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't have on this mini Dog that I'm flying now. The 717 doesn't have the auto flap extension. To protect against stall. Yeah. Anyway. Does Acme Giant fly the 7.5?
No, we don't. We own a couple of 7.5s, but they are under Acme Leasing. It's they're operated by another airline. We own them, but we don't operate them under our certificate now. I wish we did.
Well, I'd go in there and say, move out of my seat. We own this thing,
I tell you, my favorite thing though about the 7.5, I don't know what, it's just my favorite thing about the airplane is when you go into the cockpit, you actually take a step down, and you're sitting
Mm-hmm.
below the main passenger level. It's you're kind of like strapping a race car on you. So
Yeah. The thing I don't like about it is I think probably the worst jump seat I've ever experienced because at least the ones we have at Acme, it's right behind the captain's seat, and every
Ah.
single time I've jump seated in it, the captain moves his seat all the way back, so you have to kind of go 90 degrees to the right to hang your legs off, and then it's so high that your legs are just dangling, and that's
Yeah.
not comfortable at
the
all.
7.6 also had that one jump seat behind the captain, the passenger one, because you have the one behind the captain right there on the corner of the aft left window, and then you have one between the two pilots. But yeah, it's not not a comfortable ride.
Yeah, Acme doesn't have the one that's between the two pilots. They just have the one that's directly behind the captain's seat.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
not good.
And then, you're sitting up so high too that it's great if you're trying to look at things on the ground in front of the airplane. But like when you're flying approaches and that kind of thing, you have to kind of bend down to kind of look out the windscreen. I don't like it. But anyway, nobody asked me. Liz, did you put the overlay of the Northern Pacific up there just to kind of look at a little visual stimulation, as they say?
Oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah. So there's their
Although
paint
I see
scheme.
something wrong with that picture. Those are Pratt & Whitney engines, and I thought these were equipped with RB211s.
Oh, good point. Well, the artist obviously is not an aviation geek.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those. I have to say, those Rolls-Royce engines with the nacelles are nice and streamlined. They look really, really sharp.
They really are. They really are. And Ben's asking if the Rolls-Royce engines are better. Nick would say so, I'm sure. But I don't know. I've never flown. There are 7.6s with RB211s, and Qantas used to operate a few, and so did British Airways. But I've only flown 7.6s with Pratt & Whitney, the PW4000s, and the CF6s. Both the old iteration of the CF6 on the Dash 200s, and obviously the newer CF6s on the 300 and 300ERs that I fly around now. So I don't know. Actually, I've never flown an airplane with an RB211 engine, so I wouldn't know.
I have. I flew an airplane that had the
Oh, yeah, of
very
course you
first version of the RB211, the L1011 TriStar.
That's
What a
right.
great jet. Great engine,
Oh, yeah.
too. All right. We're going to move to this next one here. This is it, I think. Okay. A Sterna Linhas Arias. Rick, help me out.
Hang on, let me see here.
That's the F. A
One F.
Sterna. Yeah, start reading the narrative there.
Oh, Sterna. That's Portuguese. Linhas Aéreas.
Okay.
Pretty similar to Spanish, I guess. It says,
Yeah.
Sterna Linhas Aéreas Airbus A300-B4, registration Papa Romeo Sierra Tango November, performing postal cargo flight STR 9302 from Sao Paulo, Guarulhos, Sao Paulo to Recife in Brazil with a crew of 3, landed on Recife's runway 18 at 0910 Zulu. However, the nose gear collapsed upon touchdown. The aircraft veered right of the runway and came to a stop with both main gear and aircraft nose on soft ground. There were no injuries. The aircraft received substantial damage. It says here that the crew deployed the L1 slide. The slide inflated but detached from the aircraft before the crew could vacate the aircraft. Well, it's not the one thing you don't want to happen.
No.
The crew subsequently left the aircraft via ladders. The runway was closed for about 2 hours as a result of the occurrence. On October 27th, 2016, Brazil's CENIPA, which I guess is the equivalent of the NTSB here in the States, reported the crew lost control of the aircraft during the landing roll. The aircraft veered off the right side of the runway as a result. And it says that an investigation is underway. In 2021, Brazil CENIPA released their final report concluding the probable cause of the accidents were control skills undetermined, inadequate use of aircraft controls, particularly, I would say so, inadequate use of aircraft controls, particularly as regards the mode of operation of the auto throttle in use, and the non-reduction of the idle power levers at touchdown. so they didn't bring the power to idle. May have led to a conflict between pilots when performing the landing and the automation logic active during approach. In addition, the use of only one reverse, the one of the right engine, and placing the left throttle lever at maximum takeoff power resulted in asymmetric thrust that contributed to the loss of control of the ground.
That's
That
not
is
it's not a recommended technique. Just let me
no,
say.
no. So that you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the Qantas One. It had a very similar issue where they touched down, brought engines 2, 3, and 4 to reverse, and then engine 1 was put at takeoff thrust, and that cost them to veer off the runway. And the other accident that comes to mind is the TAM 320 in Sao Paulo as well. Not Guarulhos, but the smaller airport in Sao Paulo, the one that's in the center of the city, where they touched down, and again, one of the reversers was written up, and then the captain that landed, he didn't bring both levers out of the climb detent into the idle detent. He left the one lever and climb, and the other lever it brought it to idle and engaged the reverse thrust that way. And then that conflict, it didn't allow the logic to didn't allow the airplane to apply brakes or deploy spoilers or anything like that. And they just went off the end there. So, yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I think I see the problem here. Let me do this full screen for everybody. Look at that runway. It's not the straightest runway in the world. It's a little wavy.
I think so. So.
I guess that's a little distortion from Google Earth. I hope that's not really what it looks like. That's crazy. Anyway, and the other thing I was going to say is I think it is kind of a minor miracle that they didn't hit this guy. Look at those
I know, he was
tire
so close.
marks.
Yeah, it's like
He must have died.
Just between the runway light and the guide, too. That's some skill right there. That's
That's a lot of skill.
That's a lot.
Yeah, in this case, as you were talking about the other case, the left reverser was inoperative on this flight, and somehow, yeah, they same sort of thing. They didn't get the power lever. Not only did they not get the left power lever back in idle, but they, for some reason, didn't it say it was like a max climb thrust or something, or max takeoff thrust or power? I'm thinking, how do you do that? That's strange.
Yeah, I don't. I know that we have a couple of A300 drivers around, and I've never flown an A300 myself, so I don't know how the I guess how physically the thrust lever quadrant is configured. Well, I know the one of the 320s and 330s and 340s and such, they have gates. I believe the ones on the 300s and 310s are very similar to the kind of setup that we are familiar with, where you have
more traditional.
You're right, a servo moving the thrust levers up and down depending on the phase of flight. But I mean, a lot of these. I mean, the logic on a lot of these airplanes, when it comes to deploying thrust reversers and speed brakes and activation and auto brakes and all that stuff, depend on both thrust levers being at idle. And if they're not, you have a little bit of a conflict there, which the airplane can't resolve until you do the right thing. So,
yeah. So piloting judgment, this is one of their findings, undetermined. I like the way they do this report. Like what did you say earlier about the skills, control skills, undetermined. Well, I'd probably use a different adjective. But let's see, piloting judgment, undetermined. The habit of not reducing the throttle lever to the idle position when passing 20 feet diverged from the procedures contained in the aircraft operating manual and prevented the automatic opening of ground spoilers. It's possible that the consequences of this adaptation of the procedure related to the operation of the airplane were not adequately evaluated, which made it difficult to understand and manage the condition experience. Sounds to me like these guys were kind of doing their own thing. They weren't using standard operating procedures at all. And they kind of had a culture of doing this at this outfit, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how what I understand from this one paragraph here is that that their manual says that you have to bring the thrust levers to idle at 20 feet. That's I don't know. Our manual says that, and this this is the flight crew training manual. It says that you should bring the power levers to idle at a slow enough pace to ideally have the action of the thrust levers touching the idle detent coincide with main gear touchdown. I mean, yeah, it doesn't always happen.
In a
that
perfect
way.
world, right?
Yeah, exactly. But 20 feet, bringing them back to idle. I don't know if sometimes. I mean, I've landed. I remember one day we were going into Quito, the old Quito airport, and I mean, I've talked about it many times. Density, altitude, and true airspeed is so high, and add to that the fact that the glide slope into that old airport was, I think it was 3.25 or 3.3 degrees. So it was quite a bit steeper than your standard 3-degree glide. And so, and if you didn't carry a little bit of power on right before touchdown, the bottom would fall out, and then the air is so thin up there that the engines didn't have time, even though you were obviously on approach idle and everything else. The engines didn't have time to spool up to hold the airplane to keep the bottom from falling out. So one time I remember I landed pretty much with full power, touchdown, and then brought everything back to idle. And
Just like on the carrier.
I
Full
tell
power.
you, it was, I remember that day. That was an interesting day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't read about it in the Aviation Herald.
No. We thankfully we
If
didn't.
I don't even think it was around probably back then, but maybe it was. I don't know.
It was an interesting day, that one. Yeah, we had a beer or two afterwards.
Boy, we got away with that one, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. So let's move on to some feedback. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. This is from Andrew. And on last show or the show before, we played the Captain Roger Victor's video about acronyms and contractions and stuff like the acronym song. So Andrew says the acronym song in episode 489 by Roger Victor is a classic. Did you know that the FAA has made... Hello?
What was that?
Am I the only one that heard my voice very loudly, or was that did that come from you, Liz? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. No problem. I couldn't tell if that was something that everybody was hearing or just me. Now I realize it was just me. And I heard my voice talking back at me, and I'm thinking, what, who's this person, and why are they talking to me so loudly? Oh, it's me. I recognize that voice. No problem. Anyway, did you know the FAA has made a list of every officially FAA-recognized acronym and contraction? It's I didn't know this, the FAAO 7340.2.418. No, wait.
No, I think it's just 418 pages of contractions.
Okay, so it's 7340.2.
Yeah.
So there's just so many numbers in a row and a couple of decimal points. I didn't know where it ended. 418 pages of contractions, including every call sign, country code, and of course acronyms. Excellent before bed or during cruise reading. Now you wouldn't want to read it during cruise.
No.
He has a link to it here, and we'll have a link to it in the show notes. But I do have the PDF in our show notes. I was hoping to have a chance to kind of peruse it a little bit and see if there was anything interesting in there that might be fun to talk about. But did you know that there was something like this that existed?
Yeah, in fact, that's what those two folks that were on that Northwest 320 that overflew Minneapolis by like 200 miles.
That's what they were doing.
Reading. So that's on the official report. So yeah, but no, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, well, get to it, and we need a full report, a book report on this thing. Anyway, thank you, Andrew, for sending in that link. And again, folks, if you're really, I don't know, you've run out of podcasts and television shows and movies,
And
yeah, or
melatonin.
you're suffering from insomnia, you might want to read this government
Yep.
document.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. The next item is from Harris, and he writes, "Training and instruction has been a frequent topic over the past few episodes, and in several plane tales over the summer. Over the weekend, I rewatched Star Trek II, and it got me thinking about your training. The movie opens with a training exercise called the Kobayashi Maru. Am I saying that right? I think I am. That sounds like one of the sushi rolls that I really like ordering from my local
Yeah, I think
sushi
so.
place.
It's a tempura one. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, where a captain in training is put into a no-win scenario to test character and gauge how a leader manages a crisis. Have you been put through something similar to this as part of your training, be it military or civil training or med school? Well, personally, not been to med school, so I can't answer that part. But I
Yeah.
guess Dr. Steph could do that, but she's not here with us today, or part two. Let's see. I guess we can just stop right there. He has more that he's going to ask us, but let's talk about this particular question regarding if it's one of those things that we've been put through. And I can tell you right off the bat that no, I've never been in a situation in the simulator or any kind of training where they just put so much stuff at you that it was basically impossible to manage, but just to see how you would handle the situation. Now, I will say with a little caveat here, or a little anecdotal experience, is that what is it called, Rick, when you are in the simulator and a self-induced emergency?
So
where
you just
you
go to
either
the
think
wrong
that,
checklist, or
yeah,
you
or first of all, the first level I think is you're flying along and you're in the simulator and it's probably your check ride and you're waiting for something to go wrong, and then you just kind of look at something and think, well, I don't think that's right. Okay, and then and then of course the simulator instructor is always laughing to himself.
the worst one is like you have V1 cut, V1 cut, V1 cut, V1 cut.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a little bit of a crosswind on takeoff or on a simulator. So you're taking off, runway 36, wind 090 at 15, gust 25, whatever. But you've got this V1 cut in your head, and you don't know when the hell's going to happen. And you're going down the runway, and the airplane starts going side to side. It's just the wind.
Yeah.
And you're all over the friggin' place, and you're like, "What the hell?" And you keep
Engine
looking
failure.
at the screen. It's like, well, no, and then you reject the takeoff because you thought it was an engine failure, and it was just nothing. So one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Or as you mentioned, Rick, the most common self-induced emergencies are caused by getting into the checklist. And you'd think that, just follow the checklist. How hard can that be? But trust me, you have to be very careful and very deliberate when you're running these checklists, because if you rush them, it's very easy to go, because you'll go to a certain point and it says, if it's this, then go here. If it's that, then go here. And it's very easy to take a wrong turn in there sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And
you have these decision
you'll
trees
get messed up.
You'll go down this rabbit hole that has absolutely nothing to do with and what ends up happening oftentimes is that you actually end up shutting systems down that are not that are not broken at all, and you end up giving yourself an electrical or hydraulic failure for no reason, and then the instructor in the back's going, "What, really?" So no, I mean a lot of times, a lot of these things are self-induced. In my experience, just like you, Jeff, I've never had because you have to remember that the whole point of these training sessions is just to practice scenarios of things that would happen in real life, and so you have to keep it realistic to as much as you possibly can. And so it is very, very rare that you're going to have an electrical failure with a hydraulic failure with an engine fire and and weather down to Cat 1 minimums. That's just not going to happen. So you might get one, maybe two, but I don't see something like
Yeah.
multiple failures happening at the same time.
I will say, no, I've
'Cause
been
it would be counterproductive, really. I don't see the benefit of that out of that.
well, yeah, and that's so I was going to say exactly that. Back in the day, and I've been doing well. Let's see, I started flying in the Air Force back in 1981,
The year I
1982,
was
early
born.
80s. Yeah, okay, rub it in. Yeah, before the turn of the century, and then in my early days with the airline, coming up on 33 years now, I have to say that it was more common to see that sort of thing, getting more emergencies thrown at you than multiple emergency situations. I think over time though they realized, as you said, it's counterproductive. It's negative training actually,
It is negative
and
training. It is
they
negative training.
basically finally learned that what's more important here is not how if they can handle all this stuff and fly the airplane at the same time. It's more about working together as a team, the cockpit crew resource management, assigning duties and roles, and working the checklists efficiently. All that. That's what it's all about now.
But that also goes. But you know what? This kind of because I tell you when I used to fly in South America and I would get my 6-month simulator check down in Santiago for the 7.6 when I first got started. I'm talking early 2000s. A lot of the instructors were retired senior pilots that were still flying around. Not flying around. Sorry, employed by the airline as instructors, and they had this old mentality where you kind of have to overload the student to see how they respond. And as these folks have been, retiring and moving on to other things, and new instructors have taken over. In my 13 years down in Chile and Ecuador as a pilot, I definitely saw a change in the type of instruction that I would receive from the early 2000s to 2016 when I left. Very, very positive change, because as you said, that kind of training, it really is kind of productive. It really doesn't teach you anything.
No.
And the whole point of this thing is to give you an opportunity to practice the very things that could go wrong in the line and to react accordingly. And
Right.
So that's the point.
And even back in the day when I was first hired by Acme, the first position was flight engineer on the 727, and we go through just weeks of ground school and learning, in depth about all the systems. And we'd always joke that you could almost take an airplane and take it completely apart and put it all back together again. Now, obviously, that's a stretch, but we had to know things though. That I always thought this was weird. So you have to know, this valve closes at 235 degrees Celsius, but there's no way you can actually see what the temperature of the air in the duct is at that point of the system, but you still had to know that it was 235 degrees, dumb things like that. And so then as time went on, they almost went too far in the opposite direction, and they basically didn't teach us anything about systems, they just relied upon using a checklist. And I'm thinking, no, you need to know a little bit about the systems.
Yeah, and if it's in the green, it's good. And there's and that also is counterproductive, because you do need to understand a little bit of how the system works, so that not so much so you can diagnose what's wrong, because that's what the system's for, but to understand what kind of impact a failure of a system would have on other systems, for example. What happens. So it's like something that comes to mind just off the top of my head on the 7.6, for example. If you are, say you take off and you are in the mid-teens, 15, 20,000 feet, and all of a sudden one of the two air conditioning packs failed. You're going to run the checklist, but you're going to continue climbing. But it would be beneficial to know that with a single pack, your ceiling is all of a sudden limited to flight level 350. So stuff like that, you need to it's not a recall item. It's not a memory item. It's just basic systems knowledge that comes in very, very handy when something like that happens on the roll, So
right.
So I'm saying, you don't have to know the exact deceleration rate for auto brake 3, but know stuff like this, because this is stuff that comes in handy that you need to know to operate the aircraft safely.
Right. If you're going to teach us just, okay, green is good, red is bad, and, all that kind of level of simplicity when it comes to understanding systems, well, you may as well have computers flying the airplane and have the humans not in the cockpit, because that's basically what you have when you're training that way. So having at least a fundamental understanding and knowledge of systems is handy, and that's when the human brain comes into effect. The pilot brain, I like to call it, when something happens and it was something that nobody had ever contemplated happening, and so now we can use our pilot brains or human brains to kind of sort it all out. And knowing a little bit about the system is a handy thing.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Okay, let's move on to. Oh no, wait, no, we finished. Let me finish off Harris's feedback here. As a related question, have you been in a training session that was programmed with such a preposterous scenario that you had to say, "Stop! This is a waste of my time, your time, and the company's time"? For
Yes.
example, a trainer who must have just finished binge watching a season of air crash investigation started you with a stall recovery, added in a thunderstorm, loss of hydraulics, the first officer having a heart attack, and of course, a volcano. I'm not sure what the volcano would have to do with anything, but maybe flying through volcanic ash, that would not be good.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
also you
clear
have
skies.
to fish for dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. Clear skies, tailwinds, and keep the blue side down. Oh, he has an asterisk with that one. Only if the underside of your aircraft is painted blue. Otherwise, don't do that, or you may be the star of a future air crash investigation episode.
I think you're supposed
That's a good
to read
advice.
that. Yeah, I think you're supposed to read that very fast, like that the disclaimers at the end of
Yeah.
of
Only
a
if the underside of your aircraft is painted blue. Otherwise, don't do that, or you may be the star of a future air crash investigation episode.
There you go.
Uh-oh. I must disagree. According to iHall boxes, a colored band with indication is easier for the human brain to interpret. Well, yeah, interpret so you understand what's happening. I'm not saying that aspect of it. I'm thinking now you've determined that the whatever the reading is wrong or bad,
Right.
or
Out of limits,
alerting you to
right.
something, and then knowing the. I think you misunderstood what I was saying there. I'm not saying that that's all you need to know, and I'm not saying that kind of a display or a presentation isn't a handy thing. I agree. Or even aligning instrumentation back in the old days before we had this style of indication, where all the pointers were for a 4-engine airplane are all pointing in the same direction. That gets your attention right away when you notice that one of them is not. And you're
Right.
oh, that's not right. What's the highlights magazine thing? One is different than the other, or something like that. Yeah, which one's different than the other? But so that kind of thing, yeah, for the human brain, obviously, I agree with you there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that once you've figured out something's not going right, then understanding the systems or having a bit of, I'm not saying being able to kind of take it apart and put it back
Right.
together bolt by bolt, but knowing something about how it's going
Right,
to
just
impact.
having an
practically.
idea. Exactly right. How is that particular failure going to impact the flight? Downstream from that particular failure. So
Right.
yeah,
And I'm sure iHall boxes would agree with that.
yeah.
And if not, then somebody throw them out of the chat room. Okay.
When you're a chat room bouncer, Micah. Just kidding.
Off with his head. No, I'm just kidding. He usually is there for at least a few good laughs, so we'll
Absolutely.
keep him in there for now. He's on
Absolutely.
probation though. Okay, we have. Yeah. Oh, he's at peace with it. Awesome.
Oh, good.
All right.
Good.
He's trying to keep us above that 50%, right?
Yeah, I like it. Or in the green
All
band.
right. Or in the green band. Yeah. We need to have some kind of a graphic with the pointer in the green, right?
We do. We're just pilots here.
I'm surprised we don't have one that shows the fun meter. My fun meter is pegged.
Fun meter and
Isn't
the
that what
easy
we call
button.
it? Yeah, and the easy button.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go. This is from Glen, calling himself Captain Kangaroo.
Okay.
And he sent us some audio feedback, and here we go. Oh, hang on. Got a little operator error there. Maybe if a computer was flying this thing, it would have worked. Let me try it again.
Greetings, salutations, and many of Douglas's talons to all the many captains of the APG. Hello, Captain Kangaroo here, another captain. Just a bit of feedback. Based on the recent incident we had in Providencetown, the Cape Air 402, and prior to that, some recent runway excursions involving jet aircraft. The one at Jacksonville International Airport comes to mind, the 7-3, with an excursion into the river. I just want to make sure everyone's aware that there is an excellent document the FAA have published that references operation. This is specific to turbojet aircraft, but I believe there's applicability in all types, in heavy rain conditions, which won't always be reflected on some of the digital ATIS or other information, may be more likely to be reflected in pilot reports. But if one references the SAFO, and here we go, Nick, this is for you. You can look at all the numbers, 19003 that the FAA published. It gives you an indication for an ungrooved runway that a moderate rain condition can lead to a severe reduction, primarily due to the various forms of hydroplaning in your braking capability. And the recommendation, if you want to equate it to a runway condition code or an RC code, on an ungrooved runway, moderate rain, normal rain, RA, is recommended to be treated as an RC2, which equates to medium to poor braking. A grooved runway in heavy rain, RA plus, is recommended to be treated the same way. To put this into context, and these aren't firm numbers, but just to give an idea, that's an approximate tripling of the required landing distance to complete a safe landing, which may mean that the runway you were planning to land on in the middle of a heavy rain event may not be appropriate. You may have to hold or go somewhere else. Just want to make sure everyone's aware of this. Again, reference SAFO 19003. Another quick note, Captain Kangaroo's been operating in the northeast of the US, and I'm happy to report that the ATC that I've spoken to about this are perfectly aware of what a pan is, and you shouldn't be afraid to use it. In fact, as the previous conclusion, it's probably a recommendation because it makes it very clear that you do want to get that urgency. If anything, they're a little unsure on the distinction between a pan and a Mayday, and are likely to treat you as a full Mayday aircraft, but I guess one shouldn't be complaining for getting more attention in terms of phoning a friend. Over and out, and I'll try and leave feedback more often than every 2 and a bit years. Thank you.
Darn right. About time. That was great audio feedback. Thank you, Glenn. Look forward to hearing more from you. And no, I know he was talking at some point to Captain Nick, who is not with us on this part of the show, but maybe we can ask him about this, and if he has anything to say in reference. He can add in his 2 cents, because I know he'll probably be listening to this right now. Hey, Nick. So if you have anything to add or subtract, please feel free to do that. Heavy rain. I don't know about you, Rick, but flying low vis approaches and that sort of thing, and icing and all that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me as much as flying in heavy rain. I mean, the couple of times that I've almost had to go around and from, or abort a landing attempt or whatever you want to call it, was because the rain was coming down so hard and the wipers were going full blast. Mm-hmm. I still couldn't see what I really needed to see until like just the very last moment, and that to me just makes me shiver. And then of course the seeing the runway, of course, is one thing, but then now he's talking about the fact that once you're on the runway, even if it's grooved with heavy rain, you're basically in, medium to poor,
right.
braking conditions, and that's no good, especially if you haven't planned for that.
Yeah, and a lot of, keeping in mind that a lot of airlines, FOMs, flight operated manuals, prohibit landings with braking action reported as poor. And so it would be, it's a good idea to as this feedback, and as Captain Kangaroo expertly points out, it's always a good idea to relate the intensity of the rain to the type of runway surface that you are presented with for your particular landing. Obviously, if you have heavy rain reported, and one of the things that you should look at when you are planning your landing is whether the runway is grooved or not for this particular reason. If you're presented with a short runway, ungrooved runway, and heavy rain at a it doesn't even have to be a very high landing weight. It's just you just know right off the bat that, hey, this is perhaps not a good idea. And so either, as you said, hold, or just consider going to your alternate. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Also keep in mind that we use it depends on the airline too, but we use a variety of tools to calculate our both takeoff and landing performance. And the system that we use at Acme Giant is called AeroData. And it's a system that uses the aircraft's ACARS, aircraft addressing and reporting systems. Basically, you fill out a template with the runway you intend to use, obviously the wind, the temperature, the QNH or the altimeter setting, and the and if obviously the type of precipitation, if there's any, and the obviously your landing weight. Your flap setting for landing, and whether or not you're going to use reverse thrust or not, and then the system will spit out a landing distance report, letting you know what each auto brake setting and what your full manual braking landing distance would be. Now, this is only applicable, and really this only matters if you touch down at the touchdown zone, and very, very short runways, like 9,000 feet isn't exactly short, but in when the runway is a limiting factor, it's very, very important that you touch down right where you're supposed to touch down. And I remember reading this report, and how these folks landed with a bit of a tailwind. They landed fast, and they crossed the threshold high, and seems to be, this is a common theme for this particular episode, one of the thrust reversers was inoperative as well, and they didn't arm the speed brake. And so you add all these things.
Yes.
And
the Funyuns, the Funyuns, the holes of the Funyuns.
No, I tell you, they all line up.
They all
line up. One thing that I always look at, and I've been doing this for a very long time, as long as I've been flying airliners. After I call for landing flap and I reference my approach reference page for my ref speed, so that I can set my ref speed +5 or whatever my wind additive is, as soon as that is set. And as part of calling for the landing checklist, I'll always go to the Progress 2 page. And this is Boeing specific. I don't know how this works on other airplanes. And there's a really important piece of information on that page, and that is the overall headwind and tailwind component and crosswind component for the wind at that altitude. And it's always good to reference that. I remember actually not too long ago when the last time I went around going in a Kona, a big island, about a month, 2 months ago, maybe. The reason why I went around is because very, very short final, I looked down and the tailwind was at 12 knots at 300 feet. And so our limitation's 10. It's a very long runway, and nothing would have happened, but limitation's 10. So always incorporate that tailwind into your scan, their short final, especially when the runway is limiting, because it might save your bacon one day.
Good advice. Good advice. And thank you, Glenn, also for mentioning the familiarity of the controllers that you've spoken with here in the Northeast or in the Northeastern United States. The fact that they are familiar with pan and what it means when we say it. So that's good to know. I think that slowly we Yanks are going to convert to making that a commonplace thing. Pan and Mayday call outs.
Yeah,
so I think I'm a convert. I think I'm finally convinced that that's probably something that I should have been trained to do a long time ago and just didn't. Mm-hmm. So, again, thanks for your audio feedback. It was great. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future. And that means we are now at that point where we're at the end of episode 491. And so I like to call this segment Wrap Up. Let's wrap things up by talking about the fact that we have a great website called airlinepilotguy.com. And there you can find information about the crew and the community. Got a community calendar. We have merchandise. We have the library. Our librarian Tiffany manages that. We have a YouTube link for the show. The Plain Tales, a separate page for that, where your information about how you can subscribe to Plain Tales as a standalone podcast if you'd like to just listen to those. And Nick puts more information about each Plain Tale and some images associated with it. So it's a great resource for you. And that and more ways to contact us and send us feedback and that sort of thing. So check it out. Oh, yeah, the coffee fund as well. So check it out, airlinepilotguy.com. And we're on social media. And, Rick, you want to take a stab at it?
Absolutely. Let's try it again. Maybe I'll get it right this time. For everything Airline Pilot Guy. Exactly. That's how I learned to fly. For everything Airline Pilot Guy related on Facebook, just go to Airline Pilot Guy. We are also on Twitter at APG Crew. We're all on there, everything APG related, and on Instagram at APG Crew. Lots of pictures and cool stuff on there as well. And we have one more way that you all can interact with the APG and the community. And I believe Hillel is in charge of that.
Well, I don't know. Let me see. I'm not sure if he's here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, he follows you around.
Wait a
sure,
minute.
Yes.
All right. Oh, yeah. Hey, Hillel, can you help us with Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
Okay. Yeah, same old thing. Just make sure you use a towel. Put that robe on, please. We don't want to see that again, that's for sure. So come on over here and tell us about Slack, please.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Hillel, for telling us about that, and look forward to... Yeah, what?
If I could walk over there, I wouldn't need the talcum powder.
Oh, he's got some kind of an issue. He needs talcum powder.
Looks like a rash. Uh-oh.
Irritated skin.
Not good.
Okay.
Has you been to Thailand lately? That's not good.
I don't know. But maybe we'll have a discussion offline.
Yeah, off air. I think
about
so.
that. Yeah, off air. Yeah. Yeah, or a discussion on Slack. Good point, Liz.
There you go.
Anyway, so check that out. And finally, we'd like to say thank you to our awesome producer, director, control room extraordinaire, Liz Pyper. She's in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And thank you, Liz, for everything you do. I couldn't do it that way. All right. And with that, it's time now to thank you again for flying with us on Flight 491. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
All right, everybody. Take care. See you next week, and be well.
Ba-doom bam.
All right.
Nailed it.
Good deal.
You know, I forgot to do the that particular applause thing like I normally do, and it just rudely or abruptly ends. This time, though, I have the control console and I have the fader button, so I just kind of slowly faded it, which is what I did earlier, and that's why when I tried to play Glen's audio, it was still the fader was still down. I had to remember to put it back up. But anyway. It's just so complicated, and you know, as you said, practice makes perfect, and we're coming up on 500 episodes, and I think by the 1,000th, I might have this all down. Yeah, that's true.
I believe you will.
Yes, Mike. Thank you for asking. We did remember to record, and now thank you for reminding me. I'm going to go ahead and remember to turn it off.
Stop here.
Beep,
there we go.
That you all can't hear, but. So it's stopped. So we're good. It's in the can. And thank you for showing up in the live audience, everybody. I believe that we've already kind of come up with a title because while Nick was still with us for part one yesterday, he's probably already working on the artwork for that. So, yeah, we're good with that.
We got Capt. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I just looked at my schedule, and on Sunday the 3rd, we have Captain on Captain, Tampa to Cincinnati. That's going to be interesting.
What do you mean, Captain on Captain?
2 captains flying, no FO. So my FO is going to be a junior captain to me. So that's going to be
that is always a dangerous situation. Every time I see an airplane coming in, and you see the crew that brought it in, and they're walking off, and they're both captains, you go, "Ooh, that's dangerous."
Wonder what they forgot to do.
Because that's why we need those first officers to keep us out of trouble. When we're both captains, I mean, nobody's keeping us out of trouble. That's
right.
Anyway, Liz says for me to mention that we believe, tentatively speaking here, that we are going to be recording on Thursday of next week, sometime in the mid-afternoon time frame, Eastern time. Are we still going to be on daylight next week? When do we go? That's, I guess, okay, not until the end of October. So, okay, we're good. So I can continue to say Eastern Daylight Time then. So look for it then. Of course, if you're subscribed to or following us on Twitter or Facebook or both, we'll put or look at the calendar. Yeah, good point, Liz. We'll put all that stuff there, and so hopefully we'll be able to see all of you there next week. And also, I'm hoping that what was I going to say? Oh, I'm hoping that everybody's going to have a great weekend. I guess today's Thursday? No, what day is today? Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. Wednesday.
Wednesday. So, hey, doesn't look, I'm taking a quick perusal of the folks that are here in the audience. I don't believe anybody here is in the Wichita, Kansas area, but if you are, raise your hand. If you are planning to get together with Nick Camacho tomorrow and anybody else that might be in the Wichita area, and we're probably going to do lunch or early dinner. So again, I'm waiting to hear back from Nick to figure out what's best for him. Let me check my mail, see if he's responded. No, because he's probably busy working like regular people do.
Yeah. Not like us looking out the window and getting paid to do so.
Although he does do this kind of thing too, but not for a living. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nope. I guess just stay tuned. APG crew, airline pilot guy, and Facebook, and we'll let you know where we're going to be and what time. And with that, anything else to add before we sign off?
No, sir. I need to get to ironing. Oh,
that's right.
Yeah, my ritual. I'm gonna light some candles, You know, do a little rain dance, and then I'll get to, there you go. I'll get to iron. Hair's a little shorter this time, though, so there you go.
Yeah, you got a little buzz cut there.
I like
really.
it. Yeah.
It looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, see everybody. We're going to go ahead and end this thing, and I got an early morning, so I need to go grab something to eat. And here we go.